Session of Gita on the go. Today we are going to be taking up 2.52 and 53, and this again, these two verses are in continuation of the previous few verses in which Krishna is trying to impress upon Arjun that Arjun, rise above the level of karmakand, rise above the level of fruitive action, which means working for fruits, and come to a platform where your intelligence, where your consciousness is situated on a transcendental platform, which is above these petty matters of the material world, because that's the way to be. That's what you are made for. That's what every living entity, every soul is destined for. Because for every living entity, the destination is the supreme, I would say, destination. Supreme destination as defined by Krishna in the previous verses as Param Padam. No less, believe me, each single soul on this earth, on this planet, or in this material world, or in the other material worlds, is originally fit to be in the spiritual world. Obviously, we are contaminated right now because of our polluted consciousness, which is the reason why we are in this world. But we all have the same potential of going back to the spiritual world. And Krishna is slowly pulling Arjun up from the very materialistic platform of working for the fruits to the level where one learns to renounce the fruits and works only for Krishna. That's the consciousness that can make us free from this material world. We'll come to the shlokas. First, let's say the prayers in gratitude for the great acharyas, for the great teachers who have given us this knowledge in such a simplified format. I do not know Sanskrit. Had it not been for these great acharyas, I wouldn't have been able to read them. And so wouldn't, I think, most of us. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjan Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamin iti namine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivas Adi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So let's read that shloka. First 2.52. Yada te moha kalilam buddhir vyatitarishyati tada gantasi nirvedam shrotavyasya shrutasya cha. Most beautiful usage of words, syllables in such a poetic manner by Krishna. The translation by Srila Prabhupada, or glories to Srila Prabhupada. When your intelligence has passed out of the dense forest of delusion, you shall become indifferent to all that has been heard and all that is to be heard. So, Krishna is making a reference to what he has been talking about in the past few verses. He's saying, I have told you a lot about how fighting today might take you to the heavens. Either you get to win this world, either you get to rule this world as a conqueror, or you get to go to the heavens if you die, that is, because somebody, a Kshatriya who dies on the battlefield, bravely fighting for the cause, gets to go to the heavens. So I have been telling you a lot of things in the past few verses, karma kand, karma yoga and everything. So he himself is now saying to Arjun that once your intelligence has passed out of the forest of illusion, of delusion, then you shall become indifferent You will not even care for what words I've already spoken to you about the Vedic scriptures, about the knowledge given in the Vedic scriptures, or things that I haven't yet told you, but lie in the Vedic scriptures as a dense forest. The Vedas are also referred to as the Nigam, which means it's actually like a forest of desire trees, because it is said that any knowledge that you need to live nicely here in this material world, you will get in the Vedas. There is nothing in the Vedas that you don't have. No knowledge, be it Dhanur Shastra, be it Ayurveda Shastra, anything, you just name it, you will get it in the Vedas. In fact, there's a very confident statement being made for the Vedas that if you prove one statement of Vedas to be incorrect, you can reject whole of the Vedas. That is the level of confidence. Why? Because obviously the Vedas have been spoken by the perfect person, the Param Purush, the complete person, the Adi Purush Krishna. And therefore, you see, if he has written them, obviously there's nothing in the Vedas which you will not get and get somewhere else. And yet, in this shloka, Krishna is calling the Vedas as a forest of illusion, as a forest of delusion. Now suppose there is a very dense forest and you get caught up in the forest, you get lost in the forest. How absolutely maddening it can be, But what if the person doesn't even realize that I'm, trapped in a forest? What if the person doesn't even realize that I have to move out of here to a place which has so much more to give me than this forest, which is full of fear, which is full of insecurity? You don't know at what point of time, a wild animal might attack you. You don't know what point of time you may be bitten by an insect. So this world is actually a world of perils, a world which is full of dangers at every step. We read this, right? No? Padam padam padavipadam. Every step there is a danger, a potential danger lurking to, attack us. So here Krishna is saying that the Vedas are like a forest, particularly the Karma Kand section. You want this, you do this puja. You want this, you do that yagya. So if you want to fulfill your material desires, Vedas give you all sorts of alternatives. You can do this and achieve your your desire to be fulfilled. But Krishna is actually now telling Arjun that that's not your aim, Arjun. To keep fulfilling your desires and to keep embroiled in that loop of birth and rebirth, birth, death, rebirth on the basis of your desires and karma is not the actual purpose of studying the scriptures, of life in general. So Prabhupada gives a wonderful purport here. He says that the main aim of all Vedic scriptures actually, be it Vedas, be it Upanishads, be it Bhagavad Gita, be it Srimad Bhagavatam, be it all the Puranas, is to know the actual purpose of human life. The actual purpose of human life is to understand yourself as a soul, to understand your relationship with Krishna, and to serve Krishna. Because in serving Krishna, we get the bliss, the pleasure that is eternal, that is absolutely like an ever-growing ocean of nectar. It is that pleasure that we are always looking for, but we are looking for it in the wrong place. Now, if you suppose you lose your ring in the house, but you're out there on the street looking out for it beneath the street lamp, and somebody asks you, "What are you looking for, my dear?" And you say, "I'm looking for my ring. Where did you lose it?" "I lost it in my house." So if you lost it in your house, why are you looking for it here? Because there's no light in the house. I'm looking for it here because the street lamp is working here. But that doesn't make any sense. You got to look for your lost possessions where you lost them. So point here is that we are all looking for that eternal happiness, but we're looking for it in the wrong place, in this world. And we are missing out on the actual purpose of all the Vedic scriptures. So Srila Prabhupada tells us that there are many good examples in the lives of great devotees of the Lord who became indifferent to the rituals of the Vedas. We follow so many rituals in our life, from the very basic day-to-day rituals like getting up early in the morning. We're told, right from our childhood, get up early in the morning, go to bed at the time, and then you get up in the morning, say your prayers before stepping down from the bed. So many different things. Say the grace before having your food. So many different rituals we are taught since the childhood. And that is to actually regulate our intelligence, to at least come to the path of transcendental consciousness, at least start pursuing it. Right? Now the point arises, however, that if we miss out on the real purpose of doing all these rituals, where are we? We're nowhere. The point arises that if we need to do those rituals for reaching a certain goal, for example, we set out from the house trying to reach a goal, and at that particular point we start enjoying the path, and we get so attached to the path and the beauty around it that we forget that we have to reach somewhere. Then what's the purpose of walking the path? The purpose of walking the path is to reach the destination. But if we forget about the destination and just keep walking the path again and again, going forward and again going backward, again going forward, again going backward, what's the point of walking the path? So the rituals are actually just a path, the processes to reach a destination, and the destination is Krishna. So the very elevated devotees who have understood that the real aim of my life is Krishna, they are so completely, I would say, absorbed in the thoughts of Krishna, in the thoughts of serving Krishna, that they don't care too much about the rituals. So here, actually, Srila Prabhupada gives an example of a very wonderful Acharya in the Gauriya Sampradaya, Shri Madhavendra Puri, who has written a beautiful shlok to this effect. He says, Sandhya Vandan Bhadramastu Bhavato Bhoh Snan Tubhyam Namo Bho Devaha Pitaratas Cha Tarpan Vidhau Naham Kshamah Kshamyatam Yatra Kwapi Nishadya Yadava Kulotamasasya Kamsadvishaha Smaram Smaram Agham Harami Tad Alam Manye Kim Anyena Me. Which means that, oh my prayers 3 times a day. Generally the Brahmins, the ones who are walking the path of transcendence, have a ritual of performing their Sandhya Vandan 3 times a day, prayers 3 times a day. So he's addressing those prayers. Oh my prayers 3 times a day, glory be to you. Oh bathing, I offer you my obeisances. So he's addressing the process of taking a bath, Oh bathing, I offer you my obeisances. I respect you. Oh demigods, Devi Devatas, oh forefathers, my pitras, please excuse me for my inability to offer you my respects. Now, whenever I sit or wherever I sit, I can remember the great descendant of the Yadu dynasty. Now, who is he referring to? He's referring to Krishna. So wherever I sit, I can remember that great descendant of Yadu dynasty, who is the enemy of Kamsa, and thereby I can free myself from all my sinful bondage. I think this is sufficient for me. So Srila Madhavendra Puri is actually asking for, asking these rituals to excuse him, because he says, I'm not able to perform all of you because I'm so absorbed in the thoughts of that great personality, that great Krishna. By just remembering him, I can actually cross this ocean of nuisance. I can cross this material ocean, this vast ocean of misery. So why should I actually, get into kind of, following into the rituals of performing those rituals? such a beautiful verse which actually tells you that when you are at that level, obviously we are not on that level. For beginners like us, it's important to follow the rituals. It's important to rise early. It's important to say our prayers in time. It's actually the reason for that is because remembering Krishna doesn't come very naturally and spontaneously to us. To come to that level of spontaneous remembrance of Krishna at all points of time, whether sleeping, whether waking, whether eating, whether walking, whether working. So to come to that spontaneous level, one has to do these rituals. But ultimately, the purpose of all these rituals is to come to that platform of spontaneously being able to remember Krishna at all points of time. That's the purpose. But if we keep doing those yagyas, we keep doing those rituals, we keep doing those pujas, but we don't remember Krishna, then all those rituals are a waste. So Srila Prabhupada is saying that when one is fully in Krishna consciousness and is engaged in his transcendental loving service, one becomes indifferent to all these regulative principles, because he has already attained that perfection, right? And one can reach the platform of understanding by service to the Supreme Lord that he has no longer to execute different types of penances and sacrifices, as mentioned in the revealed scriptures. Now you see that as we were discussing, the purpose of all penances and austerities, that is, all these sacrifices, that is, all tapasyas and all yagyas, is to come to the platform of remembering Krishna at all points of time. And Srila Prabhupada says that if somebody is doing the rituals, the yagyas and the tapasyas, only for what? For the purpose of engaging in the rituals themselves, then he's just uselessly wasting his time. Because, as Srila Prabhupada says in the final concluding sentence, that persons in Krishna consciousness transcend the limit of the Shabda Brahma. What is Shabda Brahma? Shabda Brahma is used to refer to the Vedas and Upanishads. So they say that people who are always in that perfect consciousness, the transcendental consciousness of remembering Krishna, they can just transcend, they can just go over, the Vedas and the Upanishads. So beautiful. Now in shloka number 2.53, Shruti vipariti pannate yada sthasyati nishchala samadbhav achala buddhis tada yogam avapsyasi. Achala buddhis, steady intelligence, unflinching intelligence. So Krishna is talking about achieving that divine consciousness, that steady intelligence. How? He says, when your mind is no longer disturbed by the flowery language of the Vedas, and when it remains fixed in the trance of self-realization, then you will have attained the divine consciousness. So Krishna is telling Arjun that when you stop being attracted by the, poisonous but very attractive words of the Vedas. We did a shloka somewhere in the past, in the same chapter, where Krishna said that the Vedas have a very flowery language to attract people, but the actually they are full of poison, because anything which keeps you in material bondage is poisonous, right? So here he's again referring to the words of Vedas to be flowery, because they're very attractive. Flowers are very beautiful and attractive to look at. So when you look at them, you will actually be impelled to go towards them and practice the injunctions of the Vedas. But Krishna says, when you get above that, when you can cross that over, then your intelligence will be steady and fixed, and you will attain a divine consciousness. You know what? The Rig Veda has been called the most materialistic religious book in the world. Now, that seems like an oxymoron, as if we are talking about two opposing things in the same breath. Well, actually, Vedas, particularly as we see in the Rig Veda, in the Karma Kanda sections,